Welcome in. Brandon, I see you at the over under 10:05. I told you to hit the under, and here we are at the under. Thank you very much, Brandon. Already starting off hot, donating the $4.99, saying roll tide, roll with the ice emojis. You already know it's going to be a cold summer for the Crimson Tide. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some early favorites to win the SEC. Gentlemen, I actually just got done having this conversation on Bleacher Report yesterday. They brought me on for a 30-minute stream that turned into an hour and 10-minute stream. That was a lot of fun. Had a lot of different fans in there, a lot of great interaction, and just had a great time. We're also going to talk about Oklahoma's camp because there are a few players turning heads at Oklahoma's camp. Jason, whenever you introduce yourself, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a kid who's in the 8th grade who is absolutely mauling people. We'll probably not dive super deep into that because that's just so far in the future. But you do have a quarterback out there, who's looking real good. Jonathan, thank you for being in here. Sweet Home, Boomer, Walt, appreciate all of you. Let us know how you're doing this morning. And as always, we're going to go around the table and let everybody introduce themselves. We'll just go straight down the line.
Good morning, everybody. Jake here, Jake Merrill. You catch me right now at my Twitter down below. Obviously, I jump on these different channels, like to do a lot of I'm a team guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing about me is I'm a very much a team guy. So I love teaming up with people, jumping on the shows and talking. So, and then we'll be rolling out and doing my first video for my channel this weekend. You guys check it out. Watch Twitter because I'm going to release and tell everybody the name and when it's coming out. So good times, man. But I love being here this morning with everybody, man. It makes my Fridays with the fellas.
That's what's up. Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame college football with Jason and the coach. Man, we've been burning the wick at both ends, running lots of content over on the channel. Love teaming up though with the boys, coming in here talking some ball with these amazing content creators. So thanks a lot for having me, Ty, as always, and good to see you guys.
Shout out to everybody on the panel. Thank you for allowing me here. Shout out to the homie Brinsky in the chat. Coach Sean from JMHO Sports Talk on Twitter and YouTube. Shout out to Coach Wade Wardrop, my former head coach, who said he was going to tap in. I just seen him in there somewhere. Shout out to you. Appreciate all the guys for having me. Ready to chop it up, man. Let's go.
Yeah, guys, we've got a lot to talk about. And I guess we'll start with, like I said, appreciate you, Brinsky, Hank, T-Boomer, Henry, K-Spray, Travel Panura, Mars, Eric. Good to see you all in here. Hope you're having a great Friday morning, and I hope we can contribute to your Friday morning and help guide you into the weekend. So, guys, speaking about being guided into the weekend, you know what? This is something I've been thinking about a lot. We were told, and Jason, you certainly heard it. I mean, you're as tapped into college football as anybody I know, right? And not just Oklahoma. I mean college football as a whole, and specifically SEC football.
College football.
Let's call it what it is, right? Like, you're tapped into SEC football big time. Going into this year, really ever since February, all we have heard, we being Jake, Sean, and myself, is Coach DeBoer can't recruit. Kalen DeBoer can't recruit. Oh, he can't recruit. Well, if not being able to recruit is putting in 6 months of work and being the number 3 recruiting class in the nation, I don't want my coach to be able to recruit. And listen, I know it's June. Pen hasn't hit paper yet, and that's when it matters. I agree with you. But understand any Alabama fans' excitement. This is something we've talked about. In recruiting, relationships matter. And one thing about this staff that we have seen is that they are developing relationships really quickly. Hell, PG was on here the other day telling us that he's heard some things in the background about how this staff is really developing relationships quickly and that they're really good relationships. As I just said, guys, Alabama currently ranks 3rd in recruiting. They have one of the highest average player ranks in the nation. They have 14 prospects, 1 5-star, 11 4-stars, and only, 1 or 2 3-stars? So when we look at this class, let's talk about the newest additions. You have Mal Waldrop this week. You also had, who was the other one this week?
Michael Carroll.
Michael Carroll. And that's an
3?
interesting one.
Was there 3? No, because Chuck was last week, right?
Chuck was last week. You have Michael Carroll, Mal Waldrop. Guys, talk to me about Alabama recruiting. Neilio, thank you for the $5 saying good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing great. Doing great, man. Doing great. A lot of great recruiting happening across college football. We're going to talk, like I said, about that OU camp, some of the guys that'll be on OU's campus this weekend. But let's start because we were told Kalen DeBoer can't recruit. Jake, for someone who can't recruit, how's he doing?
I'm going to tell you what, man. Like, it's impressive. I think with Kalen DeBoer right now, you have to obviously him, but where you really credit is like his ability to, I've said this time and time again, like you're only as good as the people around you. It's the same thing with life, right? Like they tell you all the time, like, hold good company, and there's a reason for it because it helps you be the best person you can be. So those people you surround yourself with, you spend your time with, you're going to emulate, and you guys are going to be only as good as your group, as your tight guys. I mean, look, for example, like when we get this panel right together, and Jason, it's been great having you in the mornings, but when we were back at Bama Football on YouTube, or even now, we have you, Ty, obviously you, Coach Sean, Jay, when he jumps in here, Coach Smook. And we have this group, and I'm obviously one of the newer additions to that group, but you surround yourself with good people who want to do a good job, who want to be the best they can be, but also at the same time are just like legit dudes, like dudes you want to spend your time with. That's the same idea when it comes to, I think, any time you're putting a team together. Like they're in that team, I'm saying, is in coaches or just maybe even a football team. That's why character goes a long way. Right. And how they connect with the guys when they go on their visits. I think from so many different aspects right now, you can look at Kalen DeBoer and just be like, whoa, I'm impressed. Now, not the whole outside world obviously is going to say that. Nobody's going to always agree that this and that, obviously I was on a panel last night that we talked about that, and 2 of them were Georgia fans. But which is cool. Like, but here's the thing: there's a respect there. But some people have really dug into DeBoer, some haven't. So they only see him. They basically only judge him from Washington, which there is way more than that in his background. So you look at what he does with this coaching staff, and he has put dudes on this staff, not just from like a ability to coach or have this like background that's kind of impressive, right? Like that I think is impressive, but he put guys on there who have the ability to connect. Like, holy smokes, Patriot Life. What's up, my dog, man? It's so good to see you in here, man. Dude, I love that, man. I miss a lot of guys from the old, from the days, but yeah, I tell you, man, like he does a great job of putting guys together who can truly like connect, and it's real. So I love it. I love it. That's my first take on it. That's it.
Love it. Jason, what are you thinking from the outside looking in?
I think it looks a lot like what it looks like at Norman right now. There's relationship building going on like crazy. We talked about this a lot the last couple of days, and that NIL is important. They're going to get their money. And they should. These kids should get their money for sure. And NIL is always going to be a part of this from here on out, no matter how you do it. We can all agree and disagree about, what they're offering, how they're doing it in certain places, whatever. In the end, with all the money flowing around, the most important thing to recruiting right now is building relationships with these recruits. If you're not building relationships on a level of guys like Kalen DeBoer and his staff and Brent Venables and his staff, then you're not going to get these guys. And I would say the same thing goes on over there at Georgia and some of these other spots. If all you're doing is playing the NIL game and you're not taking the time to connect with these kids, then what you're going to get is mercenaries, and you're not going to win that way.
I mean, look what Sven said. like in the comments. Sven Sven, I appreciate you, man. Like you just made a really awesome comment. Because you're right, you're a Mississippi State guy, and you acknowledge the fact of like, look at what like DeBoer has done in his past.
Absolutely.
Oh man, wow. Yes.
Hank also loves the stash.
What is he, 104 and 13 or something like that in his career?
Mm-hmm.
And not with guys like what you have at Alabama already, but when he got here. Not with guys like that. And so that's absolutely I mean, look, I've been saying this on my show a lot lately. Far be it for me to be the guy to predict the downfall of Alabama, because it's not going to be me.
I actually love that. I love that because it's pretty good, right? It's like right now, it'd be almost like if we fast forward 5 years and Georgia is winning a championship once every 2 to 3 years, competing every year, right? Like making runs in the playoffs. After those 5 years, I'm not going to be the guy on the 6th year to be like, they're done. It's like, I'm going to let someone else.
With the guy that's won over 100 games and lost less than 20. Yeah, no, I'm good. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Thank you very much for the 20 Patriot Live saying, thank God it's Friday. You gentlemen have a great Friday. Roll Tide. Well, it's certainly a better Friday now that you and everybody in chat are in here. That's certainly true. And I'll tell you what's about to make it even better is when you hear Coach Sean give his take. Coach Sean, what you thinking?
Shout out to Patriot Life, man. My broski from another Moski. Shout out to Patriot Life. Good to see him as always. Shout out to Brinsky. Everybody in the chat, man. Everybody. But for me, I'll take a little deeper dive into it, man. If you think back to Coach Saban's 2007 recruiting class, this class reminds me of that. It's a lot of guys that people didn't really know whether they were going to pan out or not. Talented guys, but guys that all had room to be developed. If you go back to Marquise Mays and my homeboy, Big Josh Chapman and Kareem Jackson, these guys weren't super highly recruited. They were recruited and they were good, solid 4-star kids. But, nobody knew Kareem Jackson would still be in the league today, right? Nobody knew Marquise Mays, if it wasn't for injuries, would be one of the most dominant receivers to play at Alabama. If we had used him like we used Percy Harvin, it would have been a totally different thing, right? Yeah. Rolando McClain, who I know personally, this was a group that Mike Shula had his fingerprint on, but Coach Saban really sealed the deal. Coach Saban came in and assured, listen, we're going to do some big things. So it reminds me a lot of that class, kids who were 4-star kids who may not have had, outside of Rolando, who may not have had super triple offers, but kids that his eye saw that could be developed. And for Coach DeBoer, that's what it's about for me, development. That's what I love about Coach DeBoer when you look at his history. This guy knows how to develop kids, and he gets kids that fit into what he wants to do. He may not have the 6'6", 360-pound lineman. He may have the 6'5", 315-pound lineman with great feet who could play tight end if he wanted to, as Michael Carroll. These are kids that fit what this guy's about to come in here and do. It's not a lot of offensive, if any, that do the things that Coach DeBoer does, right? So you take the talent that's on Alabama's roster, you see what he's doing, bringing these kids in, and you see the development of what he's about to try to do. You have to have an eye, man. And that's why I disagreed so much with what Matt Moscona was saying. Sometimes these guys just talk and they don't watch film, or either they don't know how to watch film, or either they don't know what the hell they're looking at. If you look at Max Wardrop, you look at Michael Carroll, if you look at Chuck, these kids can play. They can play, man, right? So, I understand what he's doing. He's bringing in, he's putting kids in position to fit what he wants to do, right? And that's the sign of a coach that knows what the hell he's doing.
Yeah, 100%. And guys, did y'all actually see Moscano had another rant?
Oh yeah,
I did.
Dude, that's all. That's like
he's done 2 or 3 of them, right? 2 or 3 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eddie Jackson as well. Facts. Eddie Jackson as well. Kids that can be developed. These kids are still in the NFL today.
Absolutely, man. Come
Yeah,
on.
that's a beautiful thing too to think about, Coach Sean, because you think about development, right? You have to do a good job when you're identifying talent,
It's a fact.
because there can be some really talented kids. It's like going back to the elementary school effect, right? Where in elementary school you have some kids who are giants, they're faster, they're more coordinated. Even in high school, man, you see this a lot. I played with a lot of guys, and Prensky, man, appreciate you. I don't know if I can.
Shout out to Brinsky, man.
I see your comment in there, man. You're the man, dude. Appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, Brinsky,
100%. But and that's Sharpshooters podcast. If you guys don't follow him, check it out. He does some good stuff. I love his
He was
content.
3 away yesterday. Brinsky, did you hit your number? Did you hit your number, B?
I think so. I reposted his stuff too.
Yeah,
it's
that's
good
good.
stuff.
Hey,
Good
that's
job,
what
man.
I'm talking about.
Good job,
Congratulations.
dude. That's awesome.
Heck
It's all
yeah,
good.
man.
Everybody, so you don't know, Ty's dog is had a little incident and caused what Ty describes as a murder scene prior to the show. So he's going to be doing
The dog's gonna be okay, right?
doing some medical
Yeah, she's
veterinary
good.
care.
She, I have to look over every so often and clean. She had a little cyst, and she scratched it this morning.
Yeah.
And I come back outside, and it looks like something out The Shining, and I'm just like,
The Shining. That's good. That's
appreciate
you're
that,
like,
Brinsky.
whoa. Oh man, Shoddy, good to see you, man, in here too, man. Just my damn opinion.
Howdy.
What's up, dude? But
The crew is in the house. We had Shelby in here too. All the crew's in the house. So glad to see everybody, man.
Who's Shelby? Where's Shelby at?
Yeah, Miss Shelby. She was up there just a little ways up.
Oh man, she was a pleasure to meet last night. Same with Shoddy and all those guys. But Coach Sean, as you're saying,
First lady.
Identifying talent, right? Like it's interesting because you look at this from a standpoint of you have to be able to identify talent, but that the talent hasn't peaked. Because if you get peak, right, that talent that you identified in high school and it's peaked, well, that doesn't work for college because guys are going to continue to develop, and you have to do a good job of seeing that these guys can be impactful, but also that they have a high ceiling, right? So I think that's a really good point when it comes down to what's kind of going on. And in Alabama, you could say it's kind of been going on for a while in Alabama, and same with Georgia, same with a lot of these powerhouse schools. But it was interesting, and you guys, I don't know if you guys saw this, but did you guys see what they said about? It was an analyst or someone who's been covering Alabama for a long time. Might have been Tim Watts from On3, right? I think. But he basically said he's never seen this amount of people like during the spring, the amount of recruits that he's like in all his time of covering, he's never seen this many recruits show up. Like there's a lot. I mean, that's crazy.
This is something I said with Brent Venables when he got hired. It's something I said, you fans, close your ears. Close your ears. Something I said with Lincoln. It's something I also said with Coach Prime. Hype can be a very powerful thing. I know there are those out there that says, it's all hype right now. And they mean it as like almost like a passing comment or a negative comment. But in my mind, I look at this from the terms of like a human psychology spot, right?
I love that. Love that.
If there's hype there, how do you capitalize on the hype? That's my question. Whenever I look at what Brent Venables did, right? He was able to generate intrigue at Oklahoma, hype, if you will. How did he capitalize on it? Well, he signed a top 10 recruiting class, top 10 class and transfer portal acquisitions. He was able to use the hype to get prospects in and then sell them on the vision. Coach Prime was able to generate a lot of hype. What did it turn into? A lot more views on Colorado than they've ever had. And yes, I'm interested to see how recycling every year is going to work. But they're getting players on that roster that you bet your sweet Bippy they would have never gotten if it wasn't for the hype Coach Prime's able to generate. We look at Coach Kalen DeBoer. he's able to get guys on campus because there is hype. There are questions. Questions have transitioned from concerns to honest questions to intrigue and hype. How are you able to capitalize on hype? That's the question. When I hear people say it as a passing comment, oh, that's just all hype, I'm almost a little confused because I'm like, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be bad if you don't utilize it right, but it's just like a business that goes viral, right? And now all of a sudden, through TikTok, through YouTube, your business goes dumb viral. How do you capitalize on that? It could be a net negative in the end if you don't capitalize right, if you misstep, if you maybe say the wrong things and now you're going viral for the wrong things. But how do you capitalize on that momentum? That's the question. And Jason, Coach Sean, Jake, you all said it. Being able to build relationships, that's the name of the game in college football. Right. And you're 100% right saying that's why you recruit multiple sport athletes in high school, because most kids who specialize peak out too soon. I love that.
Yeah. That's
I love that.
right there. That's he played.
And he would know better than any. Yeah. Like we got we got multiple college football players, whether they're in the chat or on the panel right now. So all y'all know. Shoddy, good seeing you, man. It's been far too long. I have had the chance to do some content with him a few times. Always a great time. He tried to trip me up the first time to see if he was testing me, to see if I really knew my stuff, and I passed.
And Ty, let me say this.
By all means, Coach.
Just from being on campus on what was it, the 31st, I think it was, a few weeks back, Alabama has always had 500, 600 kids at the camp. That's nothing new. The difference is with Coach Saban and his staff, out of those 500 kids, 70 of them would be really true fire. You have an offer, whether you camp or not, kids that really had an opportunity to play at Alabama. I was down there on the 31st, man, and out of those 500, it was 200 kids on campus that all were dogs. Like it was, and I knew what that was about. They had camera crews, they had, all these different things, music playing. That was the introductory. That was to say, hey, man, it's not going to change. That was the word of mouth stamp that everybody wanted to see. So you had way more recruits on campus that had committable offers that were that good in abundance. And even though they didn't get to spend time with every last one of them, the word of mouth is what that was for. Hey, man, Bama was straight, man. Y'all should get back down there, bro. And it worked. And it worked. All their official visits are packed right now, man. So that was all for show. That's why you see the coaches on film making videos to recruits. Hey, such and such, what's up, man? We out here practicing, blah, blah, blah. All that works. That is what you have to do in 2024. And that is why you're seeing recruiting stay where it is.
Well, one of the things I loved, and Coach, to your point, and I've said this before, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I do believe it's true. I love the Damani Jackson interview. And I apologize, I can't remember the channel he gave it on. If anybody does, please put it in the comments, because it was a great channel. I looked, they're not near as big as they should be doing interviews like that. I mean, it was high quality stuff. If anybody knows where that channel was, please put it in the comments.
I got
and
it.
Go over there. Thank you. Go over there and subscribe. We need to help grow that channel. Don't know who runs it. Never met him.
That's the coach out of California. They do it. They're basically like the guy, if you don't know the story real quick, he basically started up like a whole new program for like youth athletes and got some big names in there, and then took them camping and did development work as far as getting them in. Hey, thanks, Bishop. Appreciate you, man. But did some development work and got guys into place, man. And to let them have some success. And it's called Winner Circle Athletics. Winner Circle Athletics. Like it really, and it's not just like, I know you were talking Alabama right now, but it's not just Alabama stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there. And the guy who did it, you talk about the level of athletes. He was basically saying like that these athletes, some of them, a lot of them will go to camp and basically kill their opportunities early on because you're having to make up ground, right? Like it's like early in a relationship, if you don't really think this girl or whatnot is the girl and you just don't put in much effort, or maybe you don't have the right life lessons at that timing and the timing's all off, and you go in there and you kill your chances with this girl who ends up being probably, the one you missed out on. That's basically the same idea, is he prepare you to go to camp and say, hey, this is what we need to do. So there's a lot of good stuff there. But yeah, Winter Circle Athletics.
100%. Thank you very much for that. I put it in the chat. Guys, if you do go over there right now, be sure to come back. But drop him some subs. Like, he did some great stuff. And how big is the channel, Jake? I don't think it's near big enough as it should be. I thought it was like at 700 subs.
Let me take a peek right now.
He needs to be well over that.
No, it looks like I think they're over that. I think they're now at 6.84 thousand subscribers.
Well, good. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Because he does great stuff, right? No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where I'm going with this. In that interview, Damani Jackson said something that really stuck with me. And it was when he talked about how he was silently committed to Alabama, thought that was going to be the end of it. He was going to go to play for Nick Saban. Then he took that last visit to USC and said, hey, I think I'm going to end up committing here. And he said the hardest thing he had to do was call Nick Saban and let him know, I'm not coming to Bama. I have flipped my commitment. Because, he was a silent, so it is technically a flip. He calls Nick Saban, and Saban tells him, and I'm not going to be able to get this exactly right, guys. It's been like 2 months since I've watched this interview, but you'll get the gist of it. Saban tells him something to the effect of, okay, I wish you luck. I wish you success, but you always have a home here. Ladies and gentlemen, in the transfer portal era, this is why I say, yes, we're in the NIL era. No doubt about it. But if you aren't building relationships, like Jason said, and Hank, you had a great comment in the chat saying transactional doesn't last. That's so true. In the transfer portal, in the age of the transfer portal, you must maintain those great relationships, because that kid could hit the portal after 1 year. And if you did what Saban did and said, hey, whatever decision is best for you and your family, I support it. I will wish you good luck. I will root for you. But just know, you always have a home here. I think that is exactly the type of relationship building that so many of your successful recruiting classes have done. Certainly, we've heard that with Brent Venables. We've now seen that with a Kalen DeBoer with how he's moving. So it's very interesting. But guys, I did want to talk about this real fast, right? And we'll get into the weekend visitors. You got huge names: Jackson Lloyd, Ackland Deer. Hopefully they can get that flip for Ackland Deer. I would love the running back combination of Turbo Rogers and Ackland Deer. Ackland Deer, guys, he is fun to watch. Power runner that has a ton of explosion. Like, when he puts his foot in the ground, he gets from standing still to top speed real quick. And he's got enough long speed to where it's not like he's Caden Durham and running like a 10-2-9 100-meter dash, right? He's not Caden Durham. But he gets up to top speed so quickly that he still has a good top speed. He's real tough to catch. His acceleration is so fast, it makes him real difficult to catch, because he's so far ahead of you that you're playing catch up and you probably don't have enough time. So Alabama has a lot of great visitors. But guys, one of the things I did want to talk about, because I found it ironic, our great friend Sicario shouting out Coach Sean. We have got a great friend who works for ESPN 104.5 down there in Louisiana, right? Shout out to Louisiana. God, they have great po' boys. My Lord. But he had an interesting. Jimmy says, I wish Durham would have been a Sooner. I bet, Jimmy, that kid is a monster. And in y'all's offense, he would have been a lot of fun to watch. But he's going to be fun to watch anywhere. But I completely agree. Hey, I wish he would have came to Bama. If we could have pulled 3 running backs, I'd have been down for pulling 3 running backs in a class. But what are you going to do? Our great friend over at 104.5 ESPN had another rant about Alabama. And I was going to quote tweet it. More love for Coach Sean. Yeah. Coach Sean's the best, guys. Absolutely the best.
Follow his channel.
100%. We're lucky we get to get him over here and talk to him every week. Like, that's one of the highlights of my week, is getting on with Coach Sean.
Yeah.
Coach Sean and I, guys, just a little aside, first did content together last December. On the early signing day stream, my internet went out. I was from Rudy's as grandmas were walking past me. If you actually go back, you can see a point where these old ladies, sweet old ladies, are walking past me, and they're looking over my shoulder at the computer, wondering what the hell I'm in there doing. Shout out Rudy's. But been a great time ever since. Anytime I've had the opportunity to record with Coach Sean, to do anything with Coach Sean, he's became not only a great mentor to me in terms of this game of football, but also a really good friend. And it's just been a lot of fun.
Likewise, my brother.
Coach Sean is the man.
He's awesome, man.
Hey, man, I'm following you guys. Don't let these guys fool you, chat. I'm following them.
Please.
Hey, look, whatever they do, I do. Trust me on that.
Well, our friend Matt, he's figured out that he can get interaction by just saying whatever about Alabama. And if you've noticed, he's doubled down like over the past 2 weeks, and he keeps doing it. My guess is that he says something about Alabama, gets a lot of views, goes back to his normal
way, man. Dog on Oklahoma and see how much interaction you can get from it.
He goes back to his regular content, and the views just go down, right? So he's like, okay, time to poke the beehive again. He had a rant this week, guys. I don't know if y'all saw it, talking about Alabama and the transfer portal. And I'll be the first to tell you, Alabama lost some players in the transfer portal that you damn sure wanted to keep. I will be the first to tell you that. I will also be the first to tell you that I combated a lot of fans, not just any fan base, whenever they looked after the SEC championship game and Georgia was having players enter the transfer portal. And all you heard on Twitter and even in some of my live chats is, what's going on at Georgia? Nothing. That's college football in 2023, 2024. Nothing's wrong in Georgia. Kirby is a monster. He's running a monster. They're going to be A-okay. But in college football 2024, you're going to lose a lot of guys that are processed, whether they're processing themselves, being like, okay, I want to go over here. I feel like I have ability, but I mean, this is a loaded roster, right? There are 4 cats in front of me, and I feel like I could contribute. And sometimes they're right? Places like Georgia, Bama, I mean, it's deep. And it's hard to retain that with the transfer portal. So nothing was wrong. A lot of Alabama's losses probably classified in that. Now, don't get me wrong. I can name you 5 players that I damn sure really wish wouldn't have left. And I have no problem being honest. But Matt went on this rant talking about how Alabama ranks last in the SEC in transfer portal, right? And how they're even below Vanderbilt. Gentlemen, I want to show you something. Go ahead, Jason.
I hope you're going to show me what I think. Go ahead. I want to see this, because I was fixing to say this is, I mean, at least be right about what the hell you're talking about, for God's sakes. Come on.
Yeah, we're going to go to 24/7 Sports.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, now we got the Matrix over here, right? We're going to go right here. Is it popping up for y'all?
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's Alabama. This is 2024 transfer portal team rankings.
Shocking.
There's Alabama at number 2 in the nation. But here's the part that I absolutely love, gentlemen. He said, and I quote, Alabama is last in the SEC, ranking behind Vanderbilt. Well, wouldn't you look where LSU is? Right behind Vanderbilt. You can't make this up. Like, how? How do you get paid to spew this? I don't get it. Guys, make rhyme or reason of this for me, right? Like, when I saw that and I scrolled down and I was like, how in the world are you saying this? And your team is actually behind Vanderbilt. Like, he's actually behind Vanderbilt. What Jake, talk to me, because I'm going to get
Dude, I think that it's funny, right? Because some people like they're good at being the antagonists, right? You always have to have an antagonist as part of the story. It's funny that it's this guy from like who's LSU, Louisiana based. I mean, do you think Louisiana is an area that hates Alabama? Like absolutely hates them, or like who would be that's the real question, right? Is like what's the area that hates Alabama the most? I don't know if it is Louisiana. And the reason I say that is because Nick Saban won him a national championship. Like I've said it over and over again. There's a reason why he was welcomed in every home in Louisiana, and it's the same ties that Louisiana people, and I can't speak for everybody, right? But here's my thought process on it. I didn't play at Alabama, but I have a deep love for Alabama, right? Because of the connection, right? I'm over at Washington, right, where you have a famous coach in Don James, who is the reason Nick Saban even is a coach. Don James is the reason Nick Saban ends up like basically at Alabama from like a very basic standpoint, right? From like the root of getting into coaching. And then, you have Kalen DeBoer. And it seems to be this unique connection of Washington and Alabama history. So yeah, boom. For me, I have this deep love for Alabama. I really do. Then you go to Louisiana, and there is this connection there, and you look at what Saban's done. So I don't know if Louisiana is necessarily the right area. Man, this guy's like perfect for Texas. He needs to go to Texas, and for the Longhorns, he needs to do something for them because that's the fan base who would jump on board with them. I'm just kidding. There's a lot of great fans in
and
Texas.
stuff. Is that what we're saying?
You know what I'm saying? But no, I mean he shoddy the provocateur. But no, man, shoddy in the comments was pretty funny. But truly, I mean, it's just like, dude, why do you say this stuff? Like, I don't know how this is helpful towards college football.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, it gets you viewers and it gets you a lot of attention because you're the asshole, right? Which everyone has one, whether around your group or in your family or at work or on your body. It's all good.
Well, and listen, I think being a provocateur is fine. It's
Mm-hmm.
all well and good. Are you provoking people into thoughtful analysis?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah.
And this guy has a major platform, and I wouldn't care if he was saying things that were the truth, but he was just saying it in a provocative manner to try and get... He went on a stream and called Keelan Russell a 3-star after his people at ESPN handed him papers.
He hasn't gotten anything right yet. That's the thing I'm saying too. It's like, when are you going to get something right?
He hasn't gotten anything. Per ESPN's rankings, he's the #1 dual threat quarterback in the nation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at this point, you're being paid to be wrong. Listen, if you ask my wife, someone should pay me to be wrong because I would make a lot of money, right? I would be a very rich man. Jason, talk to me about this nonsense. Shout out to Bishop as well.
Shout out Bishop
we'll
Frank,
get into
man.
this.
We would definitely, I love it. I love it. He's been coming up with some good content ideas the last couple of days. So shout out to Bishop Frank for sure. What I would tell you for sure is that, I wish the guy would just get something right. I think he's funny. I love the trash talk between schools and all that kind of stuff. I think you go a little far when you start. Basically, the last one you basically called Keelan Russell a bum, right? I don't understand it. You know what I mean? And I get it that you have right now you have the #1 quarterback committed for the Cubs. Yeah, and he's a stud. No two ways around it. But some of these things come undone, particularly when they don't buy players at LSU. Of course, that's what we hear anyway, that they don't buy players at LSU. Look, I don't know why you would want to poke the bear right now. I don't know why you want to poke the bear, but that's what it just seems like it's those guys that they don't win enough that when they ever do, then you never stop hearing about it. So You know, that's just kind of, it feels like that here. And I don't know what he thinks he's accomplishing here, but they're going to get the guys that they're going to get. But I think that he would worry more about what they're not getting in the portal right now, because yeah, they're behind Vanderbilt, not Alabama. And you know, when you know you need help on that D line and you're not able to get it because you don't quote buy players, which that's the thing that bothers me, is that this entirety of the LSU fan base and this guy and BK himself love to throw players under buses, because we're talking, I mean, when Dominic Williams committed to the transfer portal to go to Oklahoma, what did he come out with? He's saying, you know, these kids want to be bought. Don't tell me that you don't try to buy them too. So, but that is what he was trying to tell us. So it's the kids' fault for not coming to LSU or to Texas. You heard the same thing there. This is the same kind of stuff we're hearing here. I don't understand it. It just doesn't. It makes no sense to me. I don't know how you think that's going to help you get the next guy. I mean, Coach, you got to tell me. I don't know. How do you think that's going to help you get the next guy?
I mean, that's facts. I mean, you got to you. First of all, you're basing prowess off something that's not going to help you. Your coach is coming out saying things that's not going to resonate well with the cloak of what's going on in 2024. You better embrace it. I agree with you 1,000%, Jason. You better embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as dude go, man, listen, this is my take on that guy. Matt Moscona is not doing anything different than half of college football social media is doing. If I say something bad about Alabama, I'm going to get 3,000 extra clicks.
Sure.
I'm going to get 3,000 extra views. But here's my problem with that. And this is the problem me and Coach Smoot used to talk about. This is the part of social media that made me not want to get in it, you know, because I don't really know how to BS. I know how to tell you straight up what it is. You win or lose. I'm raised that way. How can you get in front of a mic and blatantly lie just because you're a fan of an opposing fan base? Everybody knows my lack of affinity. I'll just say that for Tennessee, right? Everybody knows that. I'm that fan that rather lose to Auburn than lose to Tennessee. That's me.
It's deep.
I'm not a fan of Tennessee. Yes, I'm not a fan of them. I don't like nothing about them. I don't like the color. I don't like the way it smells in Knoxville. I don't like nothing about Tennessee. I don't like all them damn heels. I don't like all that. I just don't.
Love this rant here. Last time you did this was fun. Continue.
I just don't. I just don't, brother. It's just something about the color, the song, the fan base. They're just weirdos to me, right?
Peyton Manning, all of them.
Yeah, and I respect Peyton. Peyton is a killer, right? You'll never see me get in front of a mic and tell a lie on Tennessee and just diss them when I know they're doing well. Josh Heupel put an offense on the field that whipped their asses a few years ago, scored 50 points on us, right? 40-something, 50 points, whatever it was on us, right? I'm not going to do that, man, because I see it from a coaching perspective. Shout out to Coach KT, Coach Carl Taylor, too, my broski. But to get in front of a mic and just take a crap on Alabama just because you don't like Alabama, it shows me you're just an analyst. You're just an analyst that don't really have a grip on college football. Your hate for Alabama make you destroy your credibility as far as standing in front of that mic. And I used to like listening. Now I like T-Bob. I like T-Bob. He's funny. He knows the game of football. I respect that young man, right? And he'll tell you he don't like Alabama. He effing hates Alabama, but he won't lie, right? He won't just make up some stuff just because. That's why I don't like Aaron Murray, but I do like T-Bob Hebert. I'll follow T-Bob Hebert anywhere because
T-Bob's good.
Yeah, man, that dude is awesome and his credibility is intact. The other guy, man, you just a Bama hater, bro. You just a Bama hater. You deserve to be slapped to the Everglades, right? That's just what I think. That's how I feel, right?
Baby.
You talk about Alabama because talking about your own school doesn't help you. When you look at Alabama's recruiting, you look at Luke Mertz, right? You look at Duke Johnson. You look at my favorite, Jaden Harmon. There's not a Division I program in the history of college football that wouldn't want all three of them in the same class, right? You can tell these fans that don't know no better because they just like to join in on the Bama hate. But those of us that know you're a goof, right? Respectfully, though. Respectfully. Talk about some football knowledge, brother. Talk about some football knowledge. But on the other hand, I do understand social media in 2024. The more ridiculous things I can say, the more people will come listen.
Yeah, well, it's not just guys on media too. It's just people in general. I saw a great post, and this goes back to Alabama recruiting, but yeah, I don't typically I won't comment like Red. I don't get in there and try to like go back and forth with people who have this, because look, there's, we all know there's people that just you won't win no matter what. They always are right, and that's fine. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion, but man, that's funny, man. Don't hold disrespect. But it's funny because I saw, Chuck McDonald. I bring this up because his dad made a post, right, and it went out to his wife who passed away. And they had visited last year. This was a few days ago. So last year around this time, they had Chuck McDonald, who's a cornerback commit, right? I think it's the third. Chuck McDonald, the third cornerback commit, cornerback commit for University of Alabama just within the last week and a half. He lost his mom, within this, it had to be, within probably this last year, within the year. And his dad put a post up saying, you always knew, because there's a picture of all of them with his mom, with Nick Saban when he visited Alabama last year. And he's kind of given that nod and respect, obviously, and keeping her memory alive. And it's a deep story, because now you have this dad and he's raising these kids, and he's doing a really good job. And I really respected how he went about that post. But there's people in there in the freaking post who are like, oh, good luck, Saban's not there anymore. And I sat there and I'm like, dude, I finally commented on one guy because he's like, you probably should have figured it out. He's not there anymore. And I go, that's not what the post is about, dumbass. Like, what do you don't get in here, you idiot, and disrespect somebody who's trying to do, like, he's just, putting it out there, like how much he loves his wife, and prayers to them and their family, for everything they went through. Cause it was like an accident, right? It wasn't expected. And so, and now their son is living out his dream that he realized, obviously a while back, but last year, that was a possible choice for him. So I hate when people get in there and use social media as a tool for hate. Like, what have we not learned, people? Come on. Even in the world of, it's football, and football is meant to bring people together, not tear them apart. We have fun talking smack, but in real life, like, it's meant to bring us together. So I hate when I see stuff like that. And so I finally commented back, but that's probably one of the only times.
See, I quote tweeted.
You can't help yourself, man,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I quote tweeted the last rant our great friend over at ESPN 104.5 did. And then I realized, I was like, nope. I'm giving him exactly what he wants. So I deleted the tweet. I was like, no.
Yep.
No.
Can't give hate to you can't give energy to that, man.
Mars says, no, I don't want to get along.
Absolutely.
Fair enough, man. There's always a seat alone somewhere.
Mars is funny, man.
I know.
Funny. Got a comment from Jimmy saying, how well do y'all think Sperry will do at Elite 11? Jimmy, I'm really biased when it comes to this. So I will say this, and I will always, when I talk about Sperry, I will put my bias out in front. I love his game. I've watched him play live. I've talked to him. We were at a 7-on-7 a few years ago. I mean, goodness gracious, this was 21 or 22. I think this was 2022. We were at a 7-on-7 in Dallas, and we're out there watching. There's some 5 stars out there. There's some 4 stars. Jonte Cook was out there. And when I tell you he was cooking people, oh my God, he was doing people dirty, and he was being covered by like future college football players and making them look silly.
He
That's where,
spins it, man. He spins it.
well,
Ooh.
yeah, Kevin Sperry, but Jonte Cook out there, and I know he's the wide receiver for Texas. That kid is uber talented, guys.
Yes,
Like,
he is.
I'm a fan. His
Yes, he
route
is.
running is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But it's actually crazy because Sharp Sports, the channel with like 300,000 subscribers, he and I were standing there talking. And Sharp and I were looking around, and we start watching this team behind us because we were watching Jonte and them go up against that team from Seattle that had Jaden Wayne. You remember Coach Jaden Wayne was looking at multiple different schools. Alabama, Jason, you'll remember, Oklahoma was one of them.
Yeah.
Nobody knew whether he was going to be an edge or a tight end. Super versatile guy. And he ended up going to Miami. Well, we were watching Jaden Wayne and them's team play Jonte Cook's team, and we start turning around. And we're watching this young kid out there spinning it. And there was a quarterback that he was going up against that was committed somewhere. And I don't remember thinking that it was like a massive school, but it was a Division I school. Right? Like it was. And this young kid is just spinning it, putting it in places where it's like, hey, this kid is good. So Sharp and I are standing there watching him, and Brandon Drum walks up to us. You know, we dap him up and everything, and Brandon starts talking to us, and he's like, hey, you see that quarterback, right? And Sharp and I were like, who the hell is that? That kid is out here balling. It was Kevin Sperry. And I think he was a freshman, or maybe he was going into his freshman year at the time. Like, that's how, and he looked like the best quarterback out there. And I've told you all this time and time since. Whenever he committed to Oklahoma, I said it in my video. He's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in whatever class he's in. I think he's going to do real well at Elite 11. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. Well, super good kid, grounded, right?
Mhm.
And I've only talked to him the one time, but I mean, it was enough to where that interaction with him, it stuck because he was with C4. He was over there with C4 and Sean. Is it Sean Cooper, Jason? Is the guy who runs C4? I
Yes.
think that's his name. He
Yep.
walks up to we were about to start talking to Ashton Cozart was out there, right? Jonte Cook, Jaden Wayne, and we're about to start talking to them. And Sean Cooper walks up to who I was standing there with and myself, and he's like, "Hey, y'all need to go talk to him." He's like, "I'm telling y'all, you need to go talk to him." So we were like, "You know, you're the man. Let's do it." We go over there, talk to Kevin Sperry, and both of us, right, Sharp and myself, looked at each other afterwards. We stood in the parking lot for about 20 minutes, and we were talking. We were like, that kid's impressive, man. Very, very impressive. So I think he's going to do really, really, really well at Elite 11. I think Keelan Russell is going to become a 5-star on the heels of Elite 11. I think Elite 11's got a lot of – this is a really solid quarterback class, guys.
It's going to be fun, man, right?
It is.
I want to watch that one. Want to watch that.
I wish I could get out there, but Dundee says, who has the best running back room in the SAC? I admit I'm biased. OU has deep. I mean, it is deep. Y'all got Sam Franklin out the transfer portal, and I love him.
There's a lot of good running back rooms in the SEC.
Yeah. Listen, and I hate to sound. Yeah, what's up?
Real quick, I saw this comment by C-Dub, and I want to highlight it because I keep looking at it. If you see that comment below, he says, guys, I hate to interrupt. Can we take a moment for Chuck and his family? I think anybody, 2 days ago, just to give you guys a heads up, like I lost my granddad. I was telling these guys, and my grandpa was a great, great man and taught me a lot of quality life lessons. So whether it's a grandparent, whether it's a parent, whether it's a family friend, whatever it is, I think you're right. I think maybe, I don't know are you guys good taking a second?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100, man. We'll give you a minute, dude. Just much love and prayers to the family of the McDonald's and everything they went through, and all those who've very much so lost somebody that they really care about and special in their life. So. $100, man. 100, dude. I appreciate you guys very much.
Yeah, man. I talked about this yesterday. I lost my dad 6 years ago. This year on Father's Day, he had come to visit me, and he didn't make it back home. He had an accident, and so losing a parent is very difficult. It's absolutely very difficult. So it's awesome to see him continuing.
Yep.
Right? That's what we love to see. Hopping back into this, that way it's a little bit lighter, right? You can continue on your
100.
Fridays a little bit lighter. Is best running back room. You can have multiple different answers, Dundies. Listen, of course, I'm going to be a little bit biased. And you know me, I try and remain as unbiased as possible. Bama's got 2 5-star backs in that room right now, in Richard Young and Justice Haynes. Kevin Riley was a top 10 running back, as was Hill, was a top 10 running back. Jam Miller was a top running back. There's not a running back on Bama's roster that was rated outside the top 100 players in the nation and top 10 running backs. Like, they have got a stupid deep running back room. And Justice Haynes is a monster. So, I mean, remember Richard Young, he was the number 1 running back basically from his freshman. I'm a Richard Young fan, says Mark. I am too, man. I am too. I love Richard Young. It's OU's got a deep running back room. Texas has got a deep running back room. Of course, Georgia has got running backs for days. That's what they do. I think any of those 4 teams, Texas, OU, Bama, Georgia. I don't really think Tennessee might have a dude, right? But I don't think that when you look at the collective, they're really comparing to any of the 4 teams I just listed. But you're right, man. I know there's a thought, and this is the hard part, is when you look at OU's running back room, it's not like you're like sitting there, and if you're not an OU fan, you're probably like, oh, who's gonna be the guy, right? Like they don't have a guy. Well, they said SEC ran, but Ohio State has a nice running back room, but I don't know that I would say it's any deeper.
They've got two guys.
Yeah, I don't know. It's nice. Don't get me wrong. It's very nice. I would easily put it as one of the best in college football.
This is a subjective subject, by the way. There's a lot of guys. I mean, the Texas room, and not to give any love to Rand, but the Texas room is really, really good. And they lost Brooks from last year.
And they still have Blue. They have Baxter.
Blue. Yeah, they're loaded, and they've got more guys coming. Oklahoma, same way. You brought in Taylor Tatum this past. I mean, this is a guy that anybody who thinks that guy's going to be a red shirt, no, he's not. Josh McCuistion has been watching guys for a long time. He was comparing him to Joe Mixon the last time I heard him talking about him. Joe Mixon. It's not even. I mean, this is one of the best Oklahoma backs, really in the last. For sure, in the last 10 years, but in the last 20, 25 years, there's maybe 1 or 2 guys above him. So if you're talking about this guy as that before he ever shows up to campus, which that was the last time I heard him talking about him, they're loaded. But you've already got Gavin Sawchuk there, and you already have Caleb Hicks from Denton Ryan, who looks like a dude. Look at the Georgia roster. Hey, man. I'm surprised that they haven't had that breakout. You're so used to seeing them run the football and be like that. But lately, I mean, they've been tight end university and stuff, but you expect that they're going to come back with something. But, man, I think that the running back rooms throughout the SEC, you better build them up. You better build them up because this is what it's going to take.
Jason, while you're still on the subject, I wanted to give you time, right? Because I think that I'm going to switch the order of our topics, because I think we're going to get super deep into early favorites to win the SEC. We're going to do a roundtable on the SEC as a whole. Talk to us about OU. They have Jaden O'Neal out there, 2026 quarterback, who is spinning it and looking real impressive. A lot of impressive guys at the camp out there. But talk to us about maybe visitors, what you're hearing, where OU fans need to be excited.
Well, I'm not the recruiting insider that PG and those guys are for sure, but I'm excited about the fact that, you know, having O'Neal out there, it sounds like he said OU's his number one. I just saw that on the scoop, you know, shout out to Sooner Scoop. But so I mean, this kid, you want to talk about another guy that can spin it. Again, it's funny to me that the haters are all going to say, you know, when Lincoln left, so did QBU. Well, it was QBU before he showed up. They'd already won a couple of Heismans. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that was about. But yeah, and obviously you had Kyler and Baker do it in back-to-back years. But these guys, I mean, Jackson Arnold, 5-star winner of Elite 11, Gatorade Player of the Year. Then you back it up with Michael Hawkins, underrated. The guy is unbelievable. Speed. He's been working with Kyler's dad. This is a bad dude. Now you're, and then Sperry, and then, you know, chances are you're going to end up with this O'Neal kid if everything works out the way you want it to. This is stacking this room up. And you had Brennan Zerberg also in this last class as well, and he's another 4-star, high-end 4-star guy. You know, that tells you a lot about what they do there. But to me, I think the biggest thing, that most important thing for us this weekend, Ty Haywood, Michael Fasusi are there. You know,
I don't know that Haywood's making it. That's kind of the newest.
You mean for a visit?
Yeah, I don't think Haywood's taking the visit.
I like that. That's pretty new and updated. But yeah, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt that.
Yeah, no, there were people. No, the only reason I think that is there were people in the chat earlier. I think Mars and Boomer and them were talking about how he's rescheduled. Sooner Cowboys said he's rescheduled, but he's not going to make it this weekend. Now, whether that's true or not, but we had a lot of great people in the chat.
They keep up with it very much so, you know. So
yeah, that's that. You know, we got great listeners who man, they're tapped into college football. I'll tell you, you can't get anything past chat. The round table, the nights.
I've told you I'm not that recruiting insider guy. I mean, I listen to it and I update as I hear things, but I you know, just thinking about it and what I've been hearing all week, those are the guys that you're most important. But the truth is, you've got these camps that are going on all month and some of this stuff. And I mean, the 2025 guys, their class is starting to round into where it's probably going to be at this point anyway. You're probably going to add. It looks like they're probably, from what we're hearing, you could see them be somewhere around 26, 27 players in the end. And a lot of it's going to have to do with how many of those linemen are there. If you end up with some of those guys, you know, if you could get two of those guys like either Babaloa or Fasusi or Haywood somewhere in that mix, something like that, you're not going to turn one of them down, right?
Yeah, Fasusi's a monster. So is Babalola. I wanted Babalola in Bama's class.
Well, and that's the thing is last year you didn't have as deep of a offensive line class as what you've got this year. So the good news is that those guys are all still in play. So I think they're working towards it. Again, it's relationship building. You've got, you know, a lot of these, you know, the Champion Barbecue's coming up pretty soon. You've got all these visits, the camps that are going on. There's a couple of guys that they're looking at. I think as far as the D-line class, it's not as good as it was last year. So
no.
I think there's a couple of guys they're looking at, but I don't know that you're going to end up being too heavy there. You've got a good commitment there as well already. But look, I've continued to be blown away by the way that Brent Venables and this staff are recruiting and landing these guys. They went 8-5-8 in his first 3 cycles. This one can, I mean, you start questioning one guy and he loads up. You know, they were questioning Todd Bates' ability to recruit. The guy won Recruiter of the Year at Clemson. He's put a number of guys he put 3 guys in the same draft in the first round. And, but he was getting questions from, you know, there's always that one toxic area of the fan base. But now it's moved on to other people. And Bill Bedenbaugh, as many guys as he has in the league, is catching strays and has caught strays for the last year or so. So to me, the fact that they just keep on moving on to these guys, and what I would tell you about Bedenbaugh is okay, yeah, the hard part is identifying 5-star talent on the offensive line. Size isn't always what does it. I always look at, I don't say stars don't matter, but who is offering these guys? if you're identifying the guys that Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and those guys are identifying, and you're giving them, and those are the guys that are in your recruiting classes and the guys you're working hard to get, I'm going to go with him more than I'm going to go with some of these guys that don't really go watch. They just, they listen to a coach or do this or do that. I mean, it's a business. I'm not trying to trash the business but I don't think it's all of it doesn't mean as much as some of it. But in the end, I think that they've proven that they've gone out and done what they need to do in recruiting. They're stacking talent just like just like the rest of the SEC is. So I'm excited about that. Especially their defensive recruiting, because that's what has been needed so much was defense. You got 5 blue chip D line guys from in the last class. Looks like you're may load up on the offensive line in this class. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches, but defensively and what they're doing with the safety position and stuff right now, and in the secondary in general and that linebacker, it's just we say competitive depth and drink all the time, and OU creators just tend to do it every time we say competitive depth. We got to take a drink. It's fun to be drinking a lot because you get a lot of it. So I'm excited, man. I'm happy about it. I can't wait for football to start. But the more success that you see, the more I think that that's the whole thing. You got to put success on the field. How would you expect Kalen DeBoer to not do well when he just went to the national championship game 2 years after they were 4-8?
Can I say this to Jason? You guys have a recruit, Xavier Robinson.
Yeah.
This kid is like 6 foot, 225, 230. Listen, man. I'm a running back by trade, brother. Listen, he was only like a 3-star kid, but Xavier. The kid had hella offers. I think it was like over 27 offers. Listen, the kid ran for well over 2,000 yards, 30-something touchdown. Listen, you got to have kids like this in late November when the spread and the inside-outside zone just is not working.
Yep.
You got to be able to line up on 3rd and 3 and punch that thing in there. This kid will play.
He was already 240, so he's gotten down to under 219 because he's just chiseling off that weight and turning it into muscle. But we're excited about him.
This kid will play. I'm telling you, he's good. You got another kid named Zion Kearney. Listen, hands, bro. I'm telling you, you better listen to me. Hands. I don't know if he's a burner, but you got to have kids like Devontae Smith who not going to run a 10-600, but the kid run Chris routes. And Jake, you can speak to this. When you playing safety, you got to have those receivers that understand. I use the analogy on a dig route. That's probably the most simple route to run. On a dig route, when you cutting inside, you got to be able to know where the safety's at. You got to know where the defensive back at. A lot of receivers just run the route.
Yeah.
They don't really know how to set the defensive back up. They just run the route and hope the quarterback can throw them open. What made Devontae special is he understood where's the safety at? Is he in my back pocket? Is he in front of me? Is he behind me? He understood how to get open. And Zion Kearney,
he looks so much bigger too. I mean, in the NFL, he's a small guy, but he plays so big because of the fact that he runs his routes and sets his guys up so much. I mean, Devontae's a bad dude, man.
Yeah. Look, man, Zion Kearney didn't have a lot of drops during high school, man. This kid didn't drop a lot of balls.
Very underrated.
And he would climb the ladder to go get it. That's another kid, right? When these kids don't do a lot of camping, the stars don't come.
Right.
The talent is 5-star talent. I'm telling you that, and the running back. That kid and the running back. I'm an offensive guy by trade. Yeah. Those 2 guys are going to really help Oklahoma. You can believe that.
Have you seen Devon Mitchell? I was going to ask you about. Have you seen Devon Mitchell, the tight end that they got?
The tight end, yeah,
bro.
Yeah,
and
like
he should be a high school senior right now. Yeah, he was 6'4", 250 coming in.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Monster, right?
Yeah.
And he just skills. He's very skilled. They're starting to question whether he's going to play a lot this year because I think you finally are starting to get a little bit of depth there.
Yeah,
but I think it's kind of how I feel about Taylor Tatum is you're talking about guys that are just different when it comes to those skills. Their athleticism is on another level. You're going to have, obviously you want to get them in there and get them in the right shape and make sure that they're prepared to get out there. But you got 2 guys as OCs, co-OCs that were tight ends.
Yeah.
I feel like he's going to develop well. It's been a question around Oklahoma is, what kind of recruiting is Joe John doing? And they're worried about it. And I'm like, wait a minute. They just got Devon Mitchell. He was a top 10 kid in the 26 class.
Right.
And he dropped, he's still inside the top 100, I think, with the 25. But it changed things. But anyway, I mean, you're thinking you got guys like that. And if it comes around, and you have a good season with the guys that you brought in, like Bauer Sharp and stuff like that in the portal, you could end up with, starting to roll that pipeline too. I think that's the main thing is that you got to show that proof of concept, right? I mean, no matter what, you got to show that when you get a guy that's really that dude, that you put him in a position to be successful. And I think that that's what these two coaching staffs are really about, is putting these kids in a position to be successful.
Yeah. Well, and you look, they have a pretty good visitor list too. I mean, they do have Michael Fasusi this weekend, Cortez Mills, and Marcus Harris, who's a big one for us. And then at Alabama, obviously that's not the case anymore. So, and then you have another linebacker. I can't even say his last name. Mark Hinkor, Elijah Mendez, and you got 2 D tackles also being looked at. But
watch Elijah Melendez. That's what I'll say. Watch Elijah Melendez.
He's a Miami commit too.
I think OU's in a good position to flip him, for sure. Now, Jason, here's where I do disagree with you a little bit, ma'am. And you're gonna like my disagreement. Fear not. You're gonna like my. I think Devon Mitchell plays this year because I think when you get in fall camp, do you want to know what? Listen, I think you guys got some good tight ends.
Yeah,
and you can't take everything away from spring games.
No.
Y'all have to have a tight end that can block. And Devon Mitchell, he's a do-it-all type tight end. Like, he is a tight end. He is one of those rare tight ends where it's like, okay, I can get you ready for college football by having you block, and he's more physical in terms of build than any other tight end y'all have. And he's able to run the routes, but that's where I like Mitchell for y'all, is I think that, listen, he's obviously a freshman. He's going to have to learn in the fire, but I think that he could be your best blocking tight end because that was a little bit of a sore spot from what I saw.
It was, well, the only guy they had really by the end of the season that was even healthy was Austin Stogner. And I mean, he looked like he had cement shoes on, but I think that, they're talking about Jake Robertson there. Obviously he's a transfer that came over from Baylor. He was with Seth at North Texas. And his little brother's the guy that right now he's committed to Ohio State. He plays in Oklahoma City though. So that's not over with necessarily. But I hope it didn't sound like I don't think Devon Mitchell's going to play. I think he may not play a lot early, but I think he's going to end up. You know how it is as a freshman. Sometimes you're going to have to work your way in and stuff like that. But I just think he's so talented that I agree. I think he's going to end up playing at some point. And sometimes those guys are just too good to keep him off the field.
People are saying Jake Rob. Was he in there for the spring game?
He wasn't. He was hurt, so he didn't.
Fair.
Okay,
Yeah.
But he's a vet guy. He's been around for a while, so
I know that
he's a starter right off.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough then. Okay, listen, if y'all have someone that you're confident about, that's great, right? Because every team out there, this isn't OU. We talked about this with Bama as well, right? One of the things, I love Caleb Odom. But why I think he's going to be so much better at wide receiver is because I want him to get on the field sooner rather than later. No pun intended, as we're talking about the Sooners. But he was a guy that would have had to have learned how to block, right? Like, he would have had to have learned that part. Because in high school, he was a wide receiver who they put at tight end.
Yep, played X. That's all he played was X.
Well, yeah, Coach Sean, you really broke this down. I loved your take on Caleb Odom, like the way you looked at him and his why this was the smarter move in the long run for him and his abilities and obviously what he's come from.
Listen, man. And Jake, you guys know this. When you play wide receiver all your high school career, it's damn hard to get in college and learn how to block. in college.
Yes.
It's virtually, I mean, we've seen it happen, but it is tough, man. It is tough to play in line tight end when you didn't do that a lot in high school and line up across from a defensive end or outside linebacker and stick your nose in there. That is extremely difficult, trust me. And Caleb is only about 220, and that's a big receiver, but it's not really a big tight end. He played a lot of X. Now we saw in the spring game, and just like Todd said, I don't take a gang of stuff away from it, but he did have his struggles getting off press coverage in the spring game. College is different.
True.
College is different. The DBs will play coverage on you. They'll play leverage on you. They'll jam you. They'll back off. And it's a different ball game at the college level. And I'm sure he will learn how to use his body and get off press coverage. If he plays wide receiver, he'll have so many matchup problems for the other team. He'll be a matchup problem, putting him in the slot. I want to see him play a little in line, right? Because putting him on the best corner is going to be tough for him his first season. But you put him at inline, put him matched up on the inside linebacker or safety, that's a win for him, especially in the red zone. So yeah,
I mean, he's a high 4.4, low 4.5 guy at 6'5", 220 pounds. Yeah, for sure. I love that too, Coach, because like I said, whenever they got him, he was ranked as the #1 tight end in the nation, was pushing 5-star status. But I was sitting there and I was like, okay, I would rather utilize this size at the outside, because when you get into the red zone, you can't teach 6'5". And didn't he have a catch in one? They said that in the second scrimmage, he had a catch in the red zone. Everybody's jaw just dropped because they said he went up and they didn't think he could jump as high as he can jump, and snagged it. I was like, okay, how can we get him on the field? I feel the exact same way, Jason, about Mitchell, where Mitchell's a mauler. Mitchell is a mauler. I don't think it's going to take long for him to get acclimated to at least be not an elite blocker. Because if he was an elite blocker as a freshman, that would be insane.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he can be serviceable.
They had him ranked in their top 10 overall for the 26 class. But, I mean, he should be a high school senior right now. So the expectations are, you want to temper him a little bit because, he's 17. But, and Jimmy just brought up, Caden Helms as well. He's been hurt the last couple of years, but we're talking about a guy that he's been rehabbing. And if you see it, the difference in him, he does that podcast with Nick Anderson. And the difference in what he looks like just over the last year from all the rehab stuff, and then now and just being in there with Schmitty and those guys and he just looks ready to go. If he's finally healthy this year, because he's been hurt 2 years in a row, he kind of makes you think of Mark Andrews a little bit, but he's that guy. I mean, there's an opportunity that this tight end room that was so undervalued and we just understocked is what it was. You just didn't have a lot of healthy bodies in there. They could be very, very good. It could be very, very good this year. It could be a strength of the team, which I don't know that anybody would have thought that this time last year.
Hey, shout out to I'm sorry, Jason. Shout out to
go ahead.
To Lynn Shanifeld. Lynn made a good point. I saw that kid too, man. That kid's gonna be very, very good. Quick release, strong arm. Kid don't telegraph his passes. He understand how to read coverage. That kid been good for a long time, man. That kid potentially, when his time comes, will probably be the #1 quarterback in the country. That's tracks. But I want to tell Jason this. This is what I respect about Oklahoma and Texas, I will say. Having Sark and having Brent Venables, these guys have prepared Oklahoma. And I know Brent's time has been slightly shorter.
Yeah, a year
but
less.
I like the fact that they recruited. To me, the biggest difference in the SEC and the Big 12 was defensive line warfare and defensive line and offensive line depth, right? Guys that can make plays within the trenches. Can you rotate 3 or 4 guys and bring in 3 or 4 more guys at that and no drop off?
In the interior, yeah.
In the interior, yeah. Can you sub edge rushers and bring in more edge rushers? So when you look at Oklahoma's recruiting class, and I looked at it a while back, but I remember, I think I counted with edge rushers, interior offensive linemen, and D linemen. I think you guys had 8 or 9 total kids, if I'm not mistaken. Like 2 or 3 edge rushers, two
you
or
had,
three defensive linemen.
So you had David Stone, and David Stone obviously was the number one D tackle in the class, and then you also had Jaden Jackson, who played with him there at IMG.
Nigel Smith, I remember him.
Nigel Smith, yeah,
he a dog. Seen him in person too.
And you know, he's another one of those guys that had you been more of a camper, he's a 5-star guy.
Fact. Right? That's a whole fact.
Right? Jaden Jackson's my favorite. I'm not gonna lie to you. That whole
Jackson
defense
is so underrated. It's unbelievable.
I love Jaden Jackson. Huge fan.
It's interesting, Coach Sean, you bring that up. And Miss Ebony, good to see you. Everybody in the chat. Lynn, good to see you. But it's funny you bring up the edge position because, like, you know, and Adam, good to see you too, man.
Adam.
Yeah, the weakness, right? Because Venables, granted, they'll go. They're not just this scheme, but their base package defense is a 3-3-5. Your weakness in a 3-3-5, or considered weakness that's vulnerable, is the edges. So you have to have depth, number one, to keep them fresh, and you also need to make sure you have like players out there. Moonrocker, good to see you, man.
Danny,
so that's
too, man. That was the other guy that we should have brought up for sure on the edge that they got, and then PJ Adebawari from the year before, so he was the top 5 guy. He understood the assignment. You know what I mean? He understood the assignment when he got there.
Well, and it helps that they also brought in Demonic Williams, because that's you put this in an anchor, obviously, in the middle. This is why it's funny. I'm gonna go on this just for a second. This is why I select Oklahoma being a team to really look out for, is they put the pieces into place that they needed. They didn't need like significant things, but there were pieces in place on defense, though, just to fix a couple of holes. Obviously, injuries play into that as well. But you look at, they bring in Zach Alley, right, who's very aggressive. He has the similar mindset of Kane Womack, right? He's very good at disguising what he's going to do. Very good, and he's very aggressive with his play calling. So you have Zach Alley, right? You look at the defense, you're going to see different looks, but their base will be out of a 3-3-5. You have the depth now at edge. You bring in Demonic Williams, and then I was on Horns Down podcast yesterday. Great podcast, by the way. If you guys haven't checked it out, you should. It's a lot of fun to listen to. Do a good job. So I was on Horns Down, and one of the main players of focus was obviously Dason McCullough. Dason McCullough. But dude, 6'5", 230. He was playing their cheetah position, which is like basically for us, it's the Husky. But it's a very unique position. And now that they've put pieces in place, they move him to this like kind of a stricter, more outside linebacker instead of necessarily the cheetah. And he's a guy who is going to eat in that defense. He's going to be a stud with what they have in front of him. So I really like it. But then we switch real quick over to this offense, and what I just don't think people realize, because they want to give Jackson Arnold such a hard time for last year. But dude, did you see who this is? It goes back to Bishop's question earlier. Who are these coaches who are building relationships and how they bring people in, right? And I think like, again, you look at the type of guys who develop. They brought in Seth Luttrell. Like, I don't think people realize this dude's like background. Like he goes in, he straight up, he's a quarterback's coach. He develops like Mitch Trubisky over North Carolina, right? And he was good at North Carolina, right? Different in the NFL, but he also helped develop Nick Foles. Okay, like, the guy spends 4 or 5 years under Mike Leach in this air raid. I mean, he's going to do things. So I think that's why I highlight, you know, Oklahoma's this team that's like, hey, they've prepared themselves. They've done a good job of it too. So, but I mean,
we're hoping that it continues to just, I mean, the only thing you can do is stack those kids up, you know, just like Coach was saying a few minutes ago. You got to keep on getting those kind of guys and knowing what it's going to take to compete in this league. I think that was the best thing about, you know, there was a lot of people. Actually, Bishop Frank and I were talking about this last night. But you know, when Coach Venables left to go to Clemson, you know, and it was a lot of I think it felt like there was a lot of hard feelings that were going on there at Oklahoma because of the way he left. Probably the best thing that could have happened though, because he ended up getting a pipeline on the East Coast into Florida and into these other states, or these SEC states, and building a defense. And when they won those 2 national championships and going up against the juggernaut of Alabama and being able to do it there, and bringing defenses into this league that, you know, he knew what you had to do to beat the best of this league. So now he comes back to Oklahoma, and I think there's only, and I don't know that I ever really felt like it would probably happen. I mean, I didn't really think he would end up going back there. It's probably the best thing that ever happened to Oklahoma was that Lincoln Riley left. And that's not just me sitting here wanting to trash on Lincoln Riley. I'm just telling you that Lincoln was not building the football team that you needed to have in the SEC.
Gotcha. Do not go on a Lincoln Riley rant right now.
I'm not.
That's a fact.
I'm not going on a rant. I'm just saying I'm not even trying to trash the guy.
He's right, though. I agree.
He wasn't building the team that you had to have in order to go. And Ty, what was the first, when we first worked together last year? And I told you, I said, them going 6 and 7 was probably exactly what had to happen, because it had to break, and it had to break completely, and to where that you couldn't just, you know, spackle it back together and paint over it and think it was going to be okay. It had to break all the way down. If it didn't break all the way down, you were never going to build it from the foundation up. And so that had to happen. And a lot of people gave Brent Venables a lot of hard time about that stuff early on. And that you still have people that just think that this is just your old Oklahoma, that, you know, that they're just not going to be very good for a long time in the SEC. They're built for the SEC now. But because Brent Venables is there. And it's just more talking about Venables than Lincoln. I'm just saying without that, there was no way that they were going to be ready to compete there. No way.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
I think with I'm sorry, Ty. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think with Riley, because I see it doing at USC.
Mm-hmm.
This guy would just bring kids in, bring bodies in with no avail. What I mean is, it's a different to recruit to a scheme and recruit to a criteria than it is recruit just for stars. When you see what Brent Venables is doing, he's recruiting for a scheme. And I was reading Sven's comment where he said it might be different. I don't think so. It's still going to be inside, outside zone. It's still going to be, you know, one-on-one stretches. It's still going to be pin and pull in certain aspects. It's still going to be, you know, I don't think so. I don't have no qualms about Oklahoma's offense. I never do. But I think the difference in Oklahoma, and you can see it over the last year, Brent is trying to change the philosophy, the thinking on defense, even if it means losing a game or two. This is how we're going to do this, and either get in line or hit the door.
Mm-hmm.
Brent understands that what Lincoln don't. You're not going to be able to outscore everybody in this league. You have got to play defense, right?
I mean,
if that's the case, Missouri would have won a national championship. So would have Tennessee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing.
So would Lane.
So would have Ole Miss. Here's the thing. Oklahoma goes on the road to Auburn. They go on the road to Ole Miss. They go on the road to Missouri. They go on the road to LSU. That's tough, man. You better be able to stop some people. You're not going to be able to outscore everybody in this league. You'll see injuries. You'll see the depth. You will see the depth of the SEC. Sark said it best. Sark said what I was most impressed about this league was the depth. You think, okay, 91's out, we got a chance. No, they bring in a 52 who's just as good.
You didn't know who he was, and he's just
didn't even know who the hell he was. Right?
He's
You're
the same
going
dude.
to have to be able to stop some people. And I think Brent understands that, and he's building to that. That's what makes those guys dangerous.
I like it.
Yeah, and one of the things, you know, someone put it in there, I've talked about, is that they actually got an SEC strength and conditioning coach in Schmitty. I mean, he's coming back to Oklahoma, but like he understands what the SEC looks like, what you need to be in order to be successful. And I think that's going to be huge, huge for the Sooners, right? Well, let's talk about early favorites to win the SEC. I talked about this yesterday on Bleacher Report, and Billy Joe with the 9.99 saying, "Roll Tide, roll, guys. Who do y'all think wins the Natty first? DeBoer, Sark, BK, or BV?" Well, this is a good question.
Oof.
This is a good question.
You'll put us on the spot there, are we?
So that's tough, right? And it kind of goes right in line with what we're just about to talk about. Spin says easy answer, DeBoer. I think it's tougher than that, man. Here's what I will say. DeBoer inherits still a top 3 most talented roster in college football.
It's number one. It's number one still. All the metrics say so.
They have the most 5 stars in all of college football. Now it's still year 1, and he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn. But man, this is a tough one. Ebony says DeBoer this year. Shout out to Ebony. Noah Carter going to Alabama this year from Arizona.
Thanks.
He is a monster. If y'all haven't seen Noah Carter's highlight tape, I've never seen a defensive end return kickoffs, return punts, one-hand moss people. But I did when I watched Noah Carter's tape. And not only that, outrun people. Like, I'm not just talking out physical people. I mean, they would all start at the same place, and at the end of it, he would be 15 yards ahead of everybody. It's one of the craziest highlight tapes I've ever seen. Jake, I'll start with you.
That's an easy one for me, and it's Kalen DeBoer. I mean, like, he's already beat Sark twice. Okay, so he has his card. Where do we go?
Been talking about the next one last couple of days.
I mean, it's the truth, and I'm not trying. Here's the thing: we all throw a lot of shade at Texas. The truth is, though, is Texas is good, and I think we throw shade because, or at least I know I do.
They have talent,
Texas
man.
gets so much love, and Texas is good. Like, don't get me wrong.
He's done really good. I got to give it to Sark. He's turned around the thought process and culture at Texas to where now they can push towards being the team they've always wanted, or always over the past decade plus have wanted to be.
Yeah, and so I give Sark a lot of credit because he has kind of brought Texas back into this mix, right? And then with Brian Kelly, it's an interesting one. I think Brian Kelly can get teams to a spot in which they are successful, but as far as winning out, I don't know. I haven't seen him, and he could have done that, at Notre Dame with how he was recruiting. So. And he was in the opportunity, but it just wasn't able to come through. Now, I know everyone's saying Notre Dame, LSU, talent's going to be different. I get that, but it's going to be interesting to see because Brian Kelly, just the way from a recruiting standpoint, he's just different, right? He's just and not necessarily. I'm not saying
what do you
that.
Mean TikTok dances don't work?
I mean, it's just I don't know. Brian Kelly I don't know if he. I just don't think
players, man. They don't buy
LSU fit, right? Like, he belongs probably back at he almost belongs at like a Michigan or kind of like in a Big Ten, right? So I don't think Brian Kelly, BV, I think he will definitely be in those talks. It's not going to be this season. I don't even know if it will be next season. I think they'll be definitely within the competition next season. With these top teams, and I do believe they are a studly team, and I think he's doing everything right. I just, your first year into the SEC, there's a lot that has to go down. There's a lot of learning, and again, like their quarterback, he's going to be great, but he's young. So I think it's DeBoer, and I to be honest, I think it's DeBoer this year. I think the games that it comes down to for him is number one, the Georgia game, right? Georgia, I think that game's going to be huge. We talked about it last night. I think when it comes down to it, that Georgia, they could potentially play Georgia 3 times. The First Lady said that last night. She was on, and Shelby said that last night. So they could see Georgia 3 times. That's insane. That's wild. Good. But it's very, very, very likely. There's not another coach I would rather have, though, this year, especially with college football going into a playoff style, right? Because you look at DeBoer, for those who don't know, he's already done this, and he did it 3 times. And I think also I've just dug a lot into what's going on in that locker room. I think this is very much, you have the right coaches in place, but this is also very much a player-led team who is very, very tight. Tyler Booker brings us up and talks about like this unit with the amount of guys they have coming back. A lot of people outside of Alabama and even within Alabama fan base write off Jalen Milroe, but they don't understand like how improved he will be. Like, this is that year he makes that jump, and you see not just a standpoint from a running game, but you see just overall his ability to progress and continue to develop under a coach like Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer. And I do think that with an offensive line that very much will be in contention for the Joe Moore Award, you are going to see a team that is ready to go. Now, the question mark, right, is defense. But I just do not, people don't give Womack enough credit. Like the guy, I've said it and said it again, he's put the right pieces mindset-wise with him in that defense, in that coaching staff, from the DB coaches, right, with Hitchler and Linguist, along with Robinson, who I'm very, very high on. And we're seeing that. Obviously, I don't know if we're still going to talk about it, Ty, with recruits that are coming in, because there are some names on this list that we have to pay attention to. This recruiting, like, momentum has not gone anywhere. So I think it is. I think Kalen DeBoer is the first one. And I think it's this year. I do.
And if I could answer this real quick, Jay Fez asked, can Milroe get it done? He was a bad snap away from going into another overtime with the eventual national championship winner. And if you go back and watch that game, Milroe had to pick up snaps off the ground. I counted. It was 14 times.
Oh, gotcha. Well, and Ty, there's another question like Neilio brings up. It'll be interesting to see if DeBoer goes at developing Milroe. Coach Sean, you could easily speak to this, because, or does he let him play his game? And we've talked about this a number of times. This offense is super versatile, and it plays off of the strengths. And this strength in this offense is the run game. So I think you see a lot of benefits, and Coach, I'll let you dig into this one, but you see a lot of benefits from this three-headed monster in the running back room.
You want me to go, Jason, or you going?
Yeah, you're good. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I to speak to that, I agree. I agree 1,000%. This offense fits the way they really want to use Jalen Milroe, the way we should have used him last year. Adam Lamparello makes reference to that all the time. This offense will extenuate Jalen Milroe. You'll see that this year. As far as winning the SEC, I have to start with Georgia. I give Georgia the credit because Georgia has a lot of people coming back. They got the best coach to me so far. Kalen DeBoer hadn't played a game yet in the SEC, so I'll go with Georgia out of sheer respect. But I'm going to say this, man, and I'm going to keep it all the way real. The truth is in the details. No matter how much we want to pull for our teams and make cases, the case is when you look at LSU, the bottom line, I'll be quick. LSU does not have enough talented people on the back end. I think they're going to struggle on the back end. I think they'll be better than last year, but I think with the secondary they have, they will still struggle and they will lose on the road. That's what I feel about LSU. I said this 2 years ago and I was right. With Texas has all the talent in the world. They have all the potential in the world, but this is where Texas will be tested this year that they hadn't been tested in the past. I watched Texas against Iowa State. I watched Texas against TCU last year. I watched Texas against Kansas State and Houston. So when you come into this league, you're going to have to play Florida on the road, a team that you should beat. You're going to have to play Kentucky on the road, a team that you should beat. You're going to have to play Mississippi State on the road with them god-awful Cowbells, a team that you should beat, right? And you're going to play at Texas A&M, who going to be amped and on fire for you to come in there. And that's toward the end of the season. So I think Texas will drop one of those games on the road that they're not supposed to. They will come up and bite you. This will be a TCU game that could have won, Iowa State that could have won, Houston that could have won. I think Texas will do well in the games that they're supposed to, but I do think they'll drop a game that they're not supposed to. They'll be tested on the road in a more ridiculous fashion this year than they was last year. If you look at OU, I think OU is a year away. I think what Brent Venables is doing is setting those guys up for success. I think next year Oklahoma is going to be a major player. I think they'll lose a game or two on the road only because the defense, they got some very, very young, talented guys coming to Oklahoma that will be in the rotation, that will play, and will set them up for success the next season. I think Oklahoma's going to come in and sting a lot of people and win some games that people didn't think they were going to win, right? I do believe that. I think that'll catch them up. That'll catch them in the end. Alabama, same way. We got some deficiencies on defense that I think will be extenuated. We play the better teams, but I think our schedule sets up to where we won't see these teams until Alabama is really, really, really peaked on offense, sort of similar to Oklahoma, right? Yeah. I think Alabama has the resources, the kids, and I think Alabama's just getting a surefire smack in the face because everybody has been Sabanized, right? Everybody thinks without Saban, it's going to fall apart. Well, I'm here to be the one to tell you. And a lot of people don't want to say this because they don't want to criticize Nick Saban. I don't give a damn. I'm going to tell you the way it is. That's just my humble opinion. Toward the end of Alabama's tenure, we started falling off on the defensive side of the ball. And then our defensive coaches wasn't as good as in the past, right? It's kind of like Ty said. I think Ty made a reference to this in some of our earlier shows. They didn't embrace the defense for real, and you either had great defense or you either see somebody running wide ass open. You know what I mean? So I think this defensive staff is better. And I think once you let them put their stamp on it and come in and really get these kids acclimated to what Alabama want to do, I think Alabama would be better on defense. I know they're going to be better offensively. I think the world has been Sabanized, including analysts, including talking heads, including everybody who and I understand it, man. 17 years, 6 national championships. Hell, you went to the game 8 times. I get it. I'm Sabanized, right? Oh my God, what's going to happen? It's normal. It's normal to have so much success, and then we stop having that coach is gone, so you automatically think it can't possibly be just as good. It just can't possibly be. Well, I'm here to tell you that they're setting the foundation to come in and play good ball and have a very, very good opportunity to win that conference. And it's going to shock a lot of people. So I'll start with Georgia and I'll go to Bama after that. I think everybody else is in great position. I think Oklahoma and Texas are going to have bright futures here. I personally think they should have been in the SEC 3-4 years ago.
I agree.
I love what Sark has done. I love what Brent Venables is doing right now. These guys will be major players. I think the SEC will be, as we usually are, the most dominant conference. You bring Oklahoma eyeballs, you bring Texas eyeballs, 2 great fan bases, and hell of a competition. So I'll go with Georgia first, and then I'll go with my Crimson Tide for good facts, not just fan facts.
Jason.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the question on who's going to win one first, I think you would be crazy if you didn't say Kalen DeBoer because of the fact that you have the most, you still, according to all the metrics, you still have the most talented room or the most talented team in college football, and that includes Georgia. But I would say that I believe that Georgia is the team to beat this year. I've been saying that, but not by much. We're going to find out a lot about it, right off the bat, week 5. When Georgia comes to town. So it's going to be a lot of fun for that game. That's the same week that Oklahoma will be making their first road trip in the SEC to Auburn. Awesome stuff, man. I'm planning to be there.
Bring sage. Bring sage and a lot of it.
Here's the good
Burn the sage in that stadium.
Game. That's the one morning game they have, or one of the 2 morning games that they have. So it'll be the noon game or 11 local for Central Time. So
bring sage. Burn sage in that stadium. It was built on an Indian grave. I don't know. It's cursed. Bring sage. Walk around the stadium. Get the bad spirits out, and you'll be just fine.
Okay. Well, I'm just excited about making that trip that weekend. What a great weekend! You could go to that game in the morning and go to see, Georgia and Alabama get after it at 7:30 that night. So. A lot of fun, is exciting to think about. So my thing is that where's Oklahoma in this? And that's why you're asking me. Look, I think I've been targeting 2025. I've said this quite a few times. I think that that's the year that they're fully matured. I do think some things have happened that maybe moved up that timeline. But I still think I'm thinking 9-3, 10-2. They make the playoff. I don't know that they win the whole thing, and I don't think that they're necessarily going to win the SEC either. I think that you're going to have to go on the road and win at LSU. That's a tough place to go win. You got to go to the Grove and win there. Everybody wants me to be very worried about Auburn. I don't know. I get it. I understand.
No. I'm not saying be worried about the football team. I'm saying be worried about the cursed stadium. That's.
Even the fact is, playing on the road in the SEC is a mug, and that's the first one. So the first one of your entire time in the SEC, you're going to Auburn. So I do get it. But I also think that I worry a ton about Ole Miss. I need to see it from them first.
What's the biggest gain Lane has won? 2019 A&M, and I'm not trying to be a jerk.
Well, maybe last year they hung on to beat LSU last year, maybe, but.
Yeah, but LSU didn't have a defense. They were ranked 105th in the nation in defense.
Yeah. No, and listen, I that's where my thought is I don't know that I need to see that from him first, I need to see that from him. And then when it comes to Missouri, I understand that they've got a lot of talent on the offensive side. I think that they probably lost a little much on the defense for them to really be that team. The other team that I'm fairly worried about, and you might want to close your ears, Coach Sean, I think Tennessee's scary. They're really good on the D line. They run the ball well. I think you guys are right about their running backs are maybe a little thin, but their offensive line looks good. And if Nico is that guy,
they also got pass rushers.
They're going to be scary.
And their coach is good. Their coaches, he know how to score.
They're doing a good job. They're doing a good job there. And I mean, shout out to Coach Heupel. He's done a great job. But I think I'm more worried about the home games with Tennessee and Alabama than I am about the road games at Missouri and Ole Miss. I just am. And I know that you could get bid in this conference by you're going to have a tough game, and then you're going to have to turn around and have another one. So, the last 2 games of the season really the last 4 games of the season for Oklahoma, you're talking, well, the last 2, let's just say you host Alabama, then you get to go to Baton Rouge the next weekend to close it out.
That's rough. 1-2, man.
A lot to expect, but I don't see them being much worse than 9-3. I think they make the playoff.
That's my record for OU this year.
I think they make the playoff, and you never know once you get in there. And if you have that defense to be able to shut people down in the playoff, you could make a run at it. So
I'll say this too really quickly, and Ty, you can speak to this, Jake. Kentucky. I know people outside the SEC might think that's funny. Kentucky and Mississippi State on the road, if it's a night game, are very, very tough places to play. You'll see this year, Arkansas is a very tough place to play on the road on a Saturday night when they got something to play for. Kentucky can be a volatile place. Believe me, man. I couldn't believe it myself. A road game at Kentucky, and Kentucky's decent, is very, very difficult to play.
Well, and that's where I think that Texas is, and I think a lot of things have to happen for Texas. This is not even me being a hater. It's really not. They lost a lot, though. They lost Bo Davis, and they lost that interior defensive line. They lost their top linebacker. He was, one of the All-American candidate kind of guys. Studs. They were really bad in the secondary, which is but they had that pass rush to be able to kind of help them through a lot of that. They don't have that now. They lost Bo Davis. Now, do they have some depth there that they're going to be still pretty good? Yeah, of course.
Collins is a monster. Yeah, I'm excited for him.
I get that. But the point being is that they didn't beat Oklahoma last year with those 11 guys that got drafted this year, right? So, and you're replacing all these receivers. You're replacing, and I like their running back room. I said that a few minutes ago. In the end, I think that it's going to be tougher for them in certain areas. You got to play Oklahoma and Georgia back to back, right? You're going on the road second week of the year. You got to play at Michigan. Michigan's still big, and their defense is going to be really good. And they're going to try to ugly the hell out of that game up if that's just what Sharon's going to do. That's worked for them. They don't have a guy that's really going to throw it around the yard, so they're going to try to turn that into an ugly ass game at the Big House. it's
your
gonna
coaching will be tested too.
absolutely. It's gonna be a tough place to win, right? So that you look at, and then the A&M game, you're gonna tell me that you, I mean, not far be it for me to believe in Aggie, okay? But they have a grown-up in charge now. You know,
And they're gonna fight Texas to the last breath, man.
yeah. It's in College Station.
Yes, gotta be careful.
So, yeah, man. I mean, that's a tough one. Arkansas hasn't lost to them in the last 2 or 3 times that they've played. Bobby Petrino's there. If you have a suspect secondary, you don't think he can find a way to hurt it? That's a road game.
Well, and also let me say this. One, Texas to me all depends on what kind of Quinn Ewers we're getting, right? Because Quinn, his best 2 games he's played in have both come against Alabama. And then I know you can point to his completion percentage. Sark did a beautiful job of adjusting the offense to being a short pass offense because Quinn was, I believe, nearly last in the Big 12 in deep ball percentage. Like, let's call a spade a spade. He hasn't been great at the deep ball, right? And it's because his footwork is super inconsistent. And that's not necessarily a one-off. Whenever you have someone with that much arm talent, right? They can rely a lot on their arm instead of like proper mechanics. But whenever you look at Quinn against Alabama, his footwork was fantastic, right? He was hitting the deep ball. He had some of the most beautiful passes I've seen in the last few years of college football against Alabama. But then you look at Rice and he's 0 for 7 on passes beyond 20 yards. I believe he was either last or second to last in the Big 12 at passes beyond 20 yards. And that's not a one-off, right? Like, and I understand that not last year, but the year before, it was very windy in Oklahoma State that time. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in that game. Quinn, to me, is all about, like, which Quinn Ewers are you going to get? Because if Quinn gets consistent and his footwork comes together, he is going to light defenses up. Like, he absolutely will light defenses up. He's got all the arm talent in the world. He can hit every blade of grass on the field, but it's all about those little intricacies, right? And that's why Sark, whenever he was at Alabama, you looked at an offense where, yes, he was using the short game, but he was pushing it a lot. He was stretching it a lot. With Texas, they're not stretching it like he did at Alabama, because Quinn is very inconsistent and once again passes over 20 yards, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and JW, I think, JW, are you a Texas fan? You're saying I'm a hater. But listen, a fact is a fact.
I think he's saying I'm a hater, but I am.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Two ways around it. I hate you. You're right.
Gotcha. I thought he was saying I was a hater for.
I mean, I'm not telling you no lies. I hate Texas. There's no 2 ways around it. Horns down, they kiss my ass. But they are talented. They are. I'm just saying, there's places that you can see them trip up. The other thing that you want to talk about Quinn, look, let's say he's that guy again, or finally, I should say, because I don't think. I mean, look, they're 0-2 against Washington, and Washington really tried to give them the game at the end. With the injury was what did it. But you had 4 shots from the 12-yard line, and one of them went towards the end zone. One. It was unbelievable to me. But again,
well, even that last pass that went to the end zone, last pass, he had the guy wide open. He had the pass, and if he would have just put it on a rope, it'd have been a touchdown. In Texas, he instead arced it, and the receiver and corner are both standing there watching the ball, and it allowed the cornerback to catch the wide receiver and to get it. But it's one of those things where it's like, to me, it's all about what Quinn you're going to get, right? Yeah. It's all about what Quinn you're going to get, because last year I was talking, and Frightening Truth, great viewer of the channel, he disagreed with me, but I called Quinn. I was like, listen, Quinn is great, but he's a part-time employee. And what I mean by that is he shows up in the Alabama game and looks unbelievable. He looks like what Quinn could be. You don't see that Quinn for the rest of the year, right? Like, there is a discernible difference between the Quinn that played in Alabama and then the Quinn that played the rest of the year. A discernible difference. And that is with having quarterback gurus developing you, right? Like at a certain point, if Quinn becomes the full-time employee I know he can be, he is going to be dangerous. Like, he is going to be a top draft pick. He is going to light defenses up because, like I said, he has all the arm talent in the world, but it's all got to come together. And, Frightening and I made a bet last year. He was like, I said Quinn is going to be, hopefully he develops in the offseason and is better in 2024. And Frightening was like, he's going to the draft. There's no way he comes back in 2024. I was like, watch.
You can't really judge that on what's going to happen with kids when they get it here, because that's where it really matters. You could just assume that these guys are going to get ready. There's guys that have been, man, you know how many quarterbacks have been in freaking college football for 10 years right now?
And listen, I really like Quinn because, like, I've covered him in high school, but it's all about whether or not he can become the consistent player they need him to be, because Sark has modified his offense beautifully to being very quick pass. Mm-hmm. A lot of Quinn's passes were at, behind, or near the line of scrimmage this past year. And he had a great completion percentage, something like 70+%. Once again, like I said, it was very quick passes to allow them to maximize what they have on the outside. But then they get an Isaiah Bond, and Isaiah Bond is a deep threat. Like, he's a guy that wants to run those deep routes. Coach Sean, you're an offensive guy. You can speak to this. That's where he's at his most dangerous. And it was interesting to me whenever he left Alabama and he kind of took a shot at Milroe, and he was like, I want to go somewhere where they can get the ball in my hand. And I was sitting there and I was like, so you go to the guy who has one of the worst deep ball percentages in the Big 12 and like isn't even on the radar in college football.
What are you doing telling the truth?
For the deep ball percentage? Jalen Milroe had the second best deep ball percentage in the nation and actually had a higher QBR. So to me, listen, if Quinn is that guy, he's going to be great. But Lynn, I did want to hit this comment real fast because I'm about to have to go. I'm on airport duty today. I have to run people to the airport. Lynn says LSU will have one of the top 4 defenses in the SEC. Their front 7 is strong. They're kind of like Bama. Lynn, I gotta disagree with you here.
No way. There ain't no way.
LSU's defensive front is in a bad situation.
They lied to you, Lynn.
And here's the thing. Here's how I know it's in a bad situation. If you watched that spring game, they were real thin. They tried to go after Simeon Barrow. They missed out on him. They tried to go after Dominic Williams. They missed out on him. They tried to go after 3 or 4 other guys and missed out on a lot. They need help in that defensive front. They do not have the numbers. Mason Smith is no longer there. They still don't know how to use Harold Perkins, and that back end is still real suspect, though I love the coaching hires they've made. Listen, I love Bo Davis, but I don't think that they're going to be a top 6 defense in the SEC, because if they were to make a jump from even 105 in the nation to number 30 in the nation, that would be an all-time historic turnaround. They don't have the players for that. Like, they swung and missed on several defensive line prospects. I don't think they have the depth at the front 7 or the secondary to just
best guy came from an FCS program and isn't big enough to play the interior. That's who they got as far as it through the portal. That's who they got. It doesn't even make sense what he was talking about in that piece, where he's saying that they were ranked higher than what Alabama was in the portal. It just didn't even make sense because they did nothing but swing and miss on everything. A week before that, I heard Josh Pate say they were last in the SEC. Make it make sense.
Yeah, they swung and missed on quite a bit in the transfer portal. That's why I'm not too worried about LSU defensively. I'm not. I think that they still need a year or two to put it together. So it's going to be interesting, though. I mean, it is LSU at the end of the day. It is LSU.
Can I say this on Quinn, Ty?
Go ahead, Coach.
And Jake can speak to this. It's a lot easier to change offense than it is defense, right? It's always going to be easier to play offense than it is defense. Offense, Our plays are diagrammed. We know what to do.
Sure.
Defense, we come out in a bunch. If you got a brand new defense, they like, who the hell is supposed to cover who? You just can't practice for it unless you see it, right? Sark is an offensive guy. It's always easier to play a defense when you know their pattern, when you know where their pressure package is, when you know, where their alley runners is, who's running the alley. The dude played against our defense every day. And if one thing Coach Saban has proven, he's stubborn. This is the defense we're going to play. And I don't give a damn what you're going to do. Go ask Kirby Smart. So it's always easier to score on people that you know how they're going to play. Go ask Georgia. So that's why he had great games against Alabama. Sark knew when Caleb comes off what comes on the hash, shows blitz, backs out. Yep, he got man. So let's run a seam route right at him. They did it, burnt him twice, touchdown. I mean, he said it after the post game. We're very familiar with what they like to do on defense.
He read it, right? He read it, right? He was looking inside when he shouldn't have been looking inside.
Boom. Easy peasy, lemon damn squeezy. So, stubborn defensive coordinators will win a lot of games, but it takes other people who've coached with them to really exploit their weaknesses. We can do that with Georgia all day, and Texas did it to us.
No, I mean, that's a good point. Like it's so much easier to transition offensively than it is defensively. I mean, defensively, you have to look at it this way. If we really want to get down to the simple basics, is that offense comes out, right? They do a pre-snap read, and then they make their decision on what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. The defense plays, they don't snap the ball. So put it that way, right? The offense is the one snapping the ball. So the defense is already playing in a reactive guesstimate, right? That is an educated decision to face whatever they're doing based on what they see. They don't get necessarily the same time and the same opportunity to look over the sidelines and be like, this is what the offense is doing. No, they have to keep their eyes on the ball and understand certain rules, right? And it comes down to breaking down those rules based on what you're seeing. And hopefully your coaches have narrowed down. I talked about it a little bit last night, but like you get to a point in the game where now you, from a defensive standpoint, that you start to see, okay, boom, now we know what they're going to do. These are the certain plays. This is what you look for. These are the rules you'll adjust to. We talked about that with the Oklahoma goal line stand last night, Jason. Mm-hmm. Who is that verse?
What did you ask?
The Oklahoma goal line stand.
Against Texas.
Yeah, Texas. Red River. Yeah. With that,
and they basically had narrowed it down.
Our offensive line that Sam McCullough ate alive.
Mm-hmm. So that's the advantage, right? Of like when you finally get to that point of understanding, or the coaches are like, oh, okay, we see their trend, right? Now we can narrow down what we call in the rules that we're using. But before you see that trend, that's why film study is so important defensively. I mean, guys defensively have to be really, really good film study wise. Offense, you have to be good, but at the same time, it's on you. Like the play starts on you, so you have that time. That's why you're seeing all these teams now. Look, pre-snap read, look over. Okay, what are we doing? They have certain play calls based on pre-snap read, and then go from there. So, I mean, it's a really good point that you're making. So, but as far as the LSU goes, I just don't. I tell you right now, from the depth at corner and D line, back to that real quick, they didn't address those needs. So unless they developed really, really well in this offseason, then I don't know if they get it. Maybe towards midseason they do, but I don't see that right away. So.
Guys, I'm gonna end it here just because, like I said, I'm on airport duty, so I got people could even be here waiting for me, and I have these noise canceling headphones on. I can't hear anything. But I'm gonna answer a few last questions. Someone asked about Arch Manning, and asked and it was a principled question, and asked if it was just named because he played in a lower division of high school football. Listen, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I think Arch is nice. I think Arch is really good. I said it when he was in high school.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. we were talking about this with even some Texas creators during Texas, and it's a spring game. His footwork was far more consistent in his. What year is he in? His footwork was already more consistent than Quinn, and Quinn's been working with AJ Milwee
a year ago. He was night and day different from a year ago, but he was going against the twos. So
sure, but I'm talking about mechanics.
Yeah,
like his footwork was better than Quinn's, and Quinn has been working with two quarterback gurus for years, was the number one prospect perfectly. And Quinn, and there were times where Sark, jumped on Quinn during this springtime, being like, you've got to get it down. Arch's footwork was better. And it showed, right? Like, listen, don't think that it's all on name. I will say this.
Well, I would say, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me, because we need to get out of here. LeBron James's son wasn't a 5-star number one player in the nation, and he's got all the name in the world.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's purely name. Arch is nice. Arch is very nice. He's going to be a dude, right? I'm very excited. And it's because he does the things well. And then Rand says, what kind of impact do you think quarterbacks having? That's going to be big for every quarterback out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, it cuts it down, right?
15 seconds. So these tempos, they're going to have time, to kind of look at what the defense does, and you can talk for until the 15-second mark. I don't think Oklahoma got to 15 seconds hardly at all last year. Now, obviously, I think it's going to be a little different this year. But if you're not going to be in a huddle, that's a lot of time to kind of diagnose what you got across the other side, don't you think, Coach?
I think so. I definitely think so. I think it'll be an adjustment period early on, but I don't think it's nothing that's going to linger on for the rest of the season. I think that's big. That going to more NFL rules and NFL like-minded game speed. But yeah, I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's going to affect too much later on in the season.
I like it. I think it's you definitely don't have to worry about obviously if you do hand signals. I mean,
sign stealing. Yeah,
whatever.
Jay Fez, I'm not going to lie. There was one throw where they were open. You look at how he hit Jaden Blue across the middle. That wasn't open. You look at some of the throws Arch made. There was one throw where the wide receiver was open. The rest of them, I couldn't have walked the ball into their hand any better than he threw it. The kid's got talent, man. You know me. I'm here to give you. I might not always be right, but I'm here to give you my honest opinion on what I see, right, and what I can break down. Arch is nice. I'm not saying that he's going to be the number one draft pick. That's not my contention. But he is someone who, like, whenever you're talking about being quarterback and, like, the mechanics of playing quarterback, he's going to do it well. And he's going to have a very high football like you.
Sark is a good person to put a quarterback with, too. I mean, I'll give you that much.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. How's Casey Poe doing in Bama's camp? He's going to be a monster. They're getting him acclimated to be able to play pretty much every position on the offensive line. I can't wait for Casey Poe. Gentlemen, we're going to go around the table, let everybody know where they can find you. That way I'm not, international flights, you got to be there so early. So
Yes, you do. I'll start off, but you guys can find me obviously here on the screen. You see my X or Twitter account. Follow there. I'll put out announcements of when we're doing shows or different shows that I'm on. And on top of that, I'll be releasing my own channel here soon. So this weekend, I believe, we'll have the first one out. So it's going to be fun, and you'll see that on Twitter if you do follow. And, I just appreciate being in here with these guys. It's a lot of fun, man. I look forward to Friday mornings with the fellas. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. Jason Watkins with Hall of Fame College Football. Hey, man, I've been enjoying it all. I'm doing almost exclusively morning shows, although yesterday I did them all day. So it was a good day. Always good to talk ball. Come in here and talk ball with you guys. It's a blast. I even like going back and forth with all the guys in the comment section. It's a lot of fun, man. And look, we're getting closer. What are we, 77 days?
Yep.
77 days, man. It's getting closer all the time. Getting excited about it. We got some plans for the season, so it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. Can't wait. Thanks for having me on, man.
Of course.
Coach Sean, JMHO Sports Talk. That stands for just my humble opinion. It's not fact. I'm not an insider. Nothing. I just coach the game, love the game. Thank you to Ty Hayes and all the guys on the channel. Thank you to Jason. Thank you to my bro Jake. for letting me tap in, man. Thank you to everybody in the chat for tapping in with us and supporting Ty's channel with the super chat. Please continue to do that. I'll probably be making some things later on today, trying to manage my time here on the weekend, man. I'll be so busy during the week, man, with a regular full-time job. It's real tough to put as much content as I would like out. Daughter full-time in sports, man. So I just appreciate everybody who tapped in with me. That's JMHO Sports Talk on Twitter and YouTube. Thank you.
Hey, happy Father's Day to you guys, man.
Likewise, brother. Thank you. Happy Father's Day to you as well.
Yeah,
all
happy
you
early
guys.
Father's Day to everyone out there.
Ty to you because you're a dog father.
Dog father.
Yes.
That sounds like The Godfather, but a terrible remake of it.
I love it. No, but seriously, happy Father's Day to everybody.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will see y'all back Monday, 5:30 Central Standard Time, where we will do our next roundtable. Going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss that. I'm working on getting some really good guests that you're all going to enjoy. Until next time, though, let me introduce you to the fifth member of the panel, the Spinning Wheel of Doom. And it
Roll
spins.
Tide.